All right, gang, we're way behind, and Coach has a ton of stuff to talk about, but we're just going to go to possibly Coach's favorite prediction because it's his favorite athlete of all time, and we're going all in on it. It's got to be happening right here, right now. No older. He's already exactly 50, right? He'll be 51 before next season. We've got Allen Iverson coming back for the Philadelphia 76ers to help them win a title. You know, they've had injury problems for quite a while. Paul George serving a 25-game suspension. Tyrese Maxey having a little hand injury. They've already got a really old point guard with Kyle Lowry. And what the majority of Sixers fans are mad about right now is that they traded McCain at the trade deadline, who is an undersized guard who isn't even all that good, right? So I'm not asking Iverson to come drag this sorry-ass Sixers team all to the final single-handedly like he did it in 2001 or 2002 with a bunch of nobodies and has-beens, right? You got a proper big three there, Paul George, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey, right? I'm just asking, give a little bit of mentorship to Maxey and be enough that we don't have to hear about Jaren McCain. McCain ain't shit. There's no way there's no way Iverson at 100 years old can't max freaking Jaren McCain. I can't believe they're hyping that dude up, right? But anyway, I mean, did McCain win the election? Did I forget about that? You know, I thought it was Obama, but anyway. We're looking at Iverson specifically, right? He's the exact age we want, 50, nice, flashy, put it in a headline. He's beloved. He changed the culture, right? Fashion icon, changed the dress code. Rags to riches story, grew up dirt poor, falsely incarcerated by most accounts, you know, highly controversial, undersized, you know, David in a sport of Goliaths, basically, you know, you had to go against Shaq. You know, that's what stopped him from a championship. They had to put Shaq and Kobe together. Think about that. And he still got a game off him. A hair from having game 1 and 2 under his belt before going back to Philly. It might have been a whole different series, right? But anyways, so Coach is only asking Iverson to be as good as Jaren McCain, right? Who is having a down year and isn't even all that, right? This the same year we had a locker room vote is the story they told us, is how they got Phillip Rivers on the Colts. You don't think a locker room in Philadelphia could come up with, I'd really like to play with Allen Iverson. What do we have going for us? Iverson out of nowhere a year ago finally sobered up. When we've got a big comeback story like this, people have to look really stupid, right? Iverson didn't just choose to not play anymore, right? He was basically forced out of the league. So who has to look really dumb for Iverson to be valid, right? As possibly still having it. George Karl of the Nuggets, that's easy. We're already throwing him under the bus for Melo, right? And the freaking Grizzlies. Come on, the Grizzlies. You're really telling me the Grizzlies didn't have a spot on? What have they done? They didn't have a spot on that bench for Iverson. What a joke, right? Now, so that's easy, right? It's not like we got to burn the Lakers or something here, right? It's not like the Lakers cut him, etc., right? So the entire league, the trend is it's the death of the small guard. Basically, the Sixers and Maxey. He's like the last hope of the small guard. What do you know, right? So Iverson can come back in, you know, do one last little small guard ritual, and it'd by far be the best team he ever played with. It's basically like putting Iverson with Hakeem Olajuwon. You know, you got Embiid there. Fans will instantly say we're tanking, which is what you'd want for a team that's going to win the whole thing, right? Like, and nobody's going to hate it, right? You know, it's something that should have happened a while ago. Like, why is, like, the suspicion is like, why hasn't he been in some sort of involvement with the team, right? Like, he's not on the bench doing any sort of coaching role or whatever. Like, they've kind of just largely distanced themselves, and there's been ownership change, right? So it's not like anybody who previously had a problem with Iverson is even still in the building. So, that'd be perfect last laugh type of thing. He was loyal. They traded him. He didn't leave in free agency. Embiid's been loyal this whole time. If we stuck with Iverson that whole time, we could have never got with Embiid. This is the only way you get an Embiid and Iverson together. It's just as far as like other clues, Iverson, like I said, went against Kobe. Kobe scored 81 points. That's second only to Wilt Chamberlain. Of course, Wilt played for the Sixers and Lakers and the Warriors, who were also in Philadelphia at one point. And, Kobe's dead. They can always, it's a way to honor Kobe. They can talk. Iverson's always good. It's not like Iverson's like, I hated that motherfucker. You know what I mean? He's like, I hated to play that motherfucker. He was so good, Like, it's like an all-love type situation. You know what I mean? So, basically, Iverson gets to help put everybody else over. As far as, Maxey just broke his record. Just broke his three-point record, right? So, you got to talk about him. People say he was ahead of his time. They shoot more threes now. Iverson would have had more of a green light. They would have been more willing to build a team around him, like Steph, right? He basically ran so Steph could fly, right? And even Skip Bayless saying he's wrong about Iverson. We just had the big memoir come out. We've got the Amazon series. We've had a 30 for 30. We had a Showtime movie. Not even to mention all the stuff they released when he was in the league. So, here's some highlights from his big 3 debut. He didn't do a lot, but he didn't lose the touch. That's a special kind of wet. That's vintage Iverson right there. There's another make. Here, hold on.
Contract for $200 million. Did you ever think you would see that in the NBA, and what does that mean to you as a former player?
Nah, I definitely thought I would see something like that. It's involvement, man. The game is getting better and better.
So, yeah, they're asking Iverson about Steph Curry making $200 million. Of course, Iverson didn't make anywhere near that, and he was known as being an extravagant spender. He could probably use another contract, and even the minimum contract's going to be millions of dollars. The Sixers made no type of moves at the deadline and got basically bamboozled with the Paul George suspension, so they're just kind of treading water. Let's see, what else do we got? Of course, the fashion thing. Iverson is visually appealing, right? He's going to help the league look good. He gives you a lot of great emotion. You wouldn't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wearing ridiculous stuff like this if Iverson didn't pave the way. So, he's, like I said, he's going to give you great emotion. So, visually, everything's there. It gets the fans invested. It's a true Rocky story. And most importantly, Coach is heavily invested in the Iverson character. Coach has believed in the Iverson character his entire life. Okay? And what he's telling you is for something like this to work, Coach isn't saying Iverson at 50, on paper can run as fast, jump as high, etc. Right? But what Iverson always gave you that they don't talk about enough is 100% all the time. Okay, so whatever Iverson has left in that tank, he's not saving any of it. He wants on that list. Right, or off the list, whichever way you want to talk about it. He wants in that conversation. And he's this close. All he needs is one ring on his finger. Same with Carmelo Anthony, right? So Iverson comes in, beats the other LA team, the Clippers. Melo comes in next year, beats the Nuggets. Then what, Sixers make it back and lose to Wembanyama or something? That's how Coach is seeing it. So I appreciate you. So Coach wanted to give you some more the conspiracy stuff. Right, so I wasn't going to go too deep, but why not? Right, so Iverson played on a team called Three's Company. Okay, of course, Three's Company makes you think of John Ritter. It's a spinoff of All in the Family. Rob Reiner died. There's a fighter who just fought on the UFC card a few days back named Reiner Day Ritter, basically, right? And as far as John Ritter here, his mom is freaking named Dorothy, which if you know anything about Coach predictions, he thinks there's some really, really bizarre Wizard of Oz shit going on, right? And it certainly going to have something to do with Kansas, when it's all said and done. But, maybe I think they're at least probably in the championship in college basketball. But so we got Dorothy here, right? So obviously we're looking for the Wizard of Oz, right? So we look at the filmography. Rainbow over the range, okay? So like somewhere over the rainbow, right? Everybody right around the same time too. So we're looking, okay? Dorothy Faye. Who else is in this? Garland Edmondson, right? Like Judy Garland, who played Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? So if you didn't know, Tyrese Maxey is from Garland, and the Clippers at the deadline traded for Darius Garland, like Darius Miles, who is like Myles Garrett on the Browns, who coach thinks is getting to the Super Bowl very soon and losing. And he told you Myles Garrett was going to break Lawrence Taylor's all-time sack record. He did. And he also told you Myles Garrett is played by Kobe Bryant. So do you see how the Kobe and Iverson stuff could all tie in? Right? Like, it's definitely very confusing. But, there's just way too much weirdness. Oh, and of course, Coach left out something major. So, Suzanne Summers of Three's Company played the role of Chrissy Snow. Of course, Eric Snow was Iverson's teammate. He only got there because George Karl ran him out of town. And he's 52 years old. Flip it around, you get the 2025 season, right?